This is a read aloud of Putting Good Deeds in Headlines May Not Be So Good by Tobia Smith. And our learning objective for today is to analyze the argumentative text. Putting good deeds in headlines may not be so good. Identify the author's claim and support it with evidence from the text. An online collection has raised more than $145,000 for a man who stumbled onto a pile of money and turned it over to the police. Glenn James' story of a good deed is just one of many making headlines. It may not be exactly brand new, but public interest does seem to be piqued these days by ordinary folks making what are seen as extraordinary ethical decisions. Some, however, question if airing this kind of good news is actually good. A series of good deeds. James's story. He's the homeless man in Boston who turned in a backpack filled with $42,000 went viral. So did another recent story about a Dairy Queen manager from Minnesota who stood up for a blind man who didn't know he'd been robbed. The blind man dropped a $20 bill and a woman picked it up and pocketed it. The manager threw her out of the restaurant and then handed the man $20 from his own pocket. Just a few weeks before, stories soared about 4 college football players who found themselves inside a store that was accidentally left unlocked. Instead of just taking what they wanted, they left every penny they owed at the checkout. One television report called it a story of honesty that's become a shining beacon of righteousness. There are lots of people who suffer from moral myopia. And so when you see this good happening, it renews some of your faith, says University of Texas professor Mimi Drumright. She says, these are the type of story you hope will inspire copycats. The reports of these good deeds probably are going to beget more good deeds, and that is a good thing. Already countless strangers have been paying it forward with $20 tips to the Dairy Queen worker. And everything from jobs to gifts for the other do-gooders, not to mention a small fortune for Glenn James. Moral great inflation. But at the risk of twisting any of these precious good stories into more bad news, experts say there may be a downside to overplaying it. They did do the right thing, and that's commendable, but heroic, I think not, says Carnegie Mellon ethics professor Peter Madsen. He sees the high praise swirling around the story as kind of a moral grade inflation. They had an obligation to do what they did. It was not above and beyond the call of duty. They really just did what we should have expected them to do, he says. When you celebrate what should be ordinary behavior as extraordinary, experts say, it sends a dangerous message. I do worry about a culture in which people are giving themselves credit for not having done terrible things. It sets a really low bar for what it takes to be a good person, says London Business School professor Daniel Efron. Efron, who teaches behavioral ethics, says fetting folks for what he calls the immoral road not taken could actually encourage bad behavior. When guys with integrity get put on a pedestal, he says, the implication is that they're exceptional, far greater than the rest of us. It suggests that most people in that situation would have done those bad things. So, it reinforces a norm that most people are selfish and self-serving. And therefore, it's okay if you're selfish and self-serving, Efron says. The big surprise. Others, however, suggest the reason these stories are seen as remarkable is not because we diminish ourselves, but because of the way we diminish these particular do-gooders. In this particular case, I'll just say it, the homeless man was an African-American guy, and most of the young football players who paid for their goods were African-American, says Candace Upton, who teaches moral psychology at the University of Denver. I don't think it's beyond this culture at this time to say that we have lower expectations, which is unfamiliar. But that's what sets up the big surprise. and hence probably the big response. Giving Good Samaritans celebrity treatment may also have the unintended consequence of treating monster expectations kind of like a kid expecting a prize every day that he's not late for school. You have to be careful not to go overboard, as one expert put it. But celebrating people for doing the right thing is still the right thing to do. So if you do not need the questions read at this time, you're welcome to pause this video. I am also going to record a reading of the questions and answers that you guys will be participating in on Thursday and Friday. For the following reading, these are directions. For the following questions, choose the best answer or respond in complete sentences. Which of the following, number one, which of the following best states the central idea of the article? A. Reporting on good deeds may make people less likely to perform them. B. Reporting on good deeds may make people who are likely to perform them more likely to perform them. C. Reporting on good deeds makes them less special. D. Reporting on good deeds may change society's expectations about performing them. 2. Part A. In question 11, what is meant by the phrase moral grade inflation? Again, number 2, part A, and paragraph 11, what is meant by the phrase moral grade inflation? So this is one of those context clues questions. A. Performing good deeds improves your moral grade. B. Good deeds that would have gotten a lower moral grade in the past are receiving higher praises now. C. Good deeds that would have gotten a higher moral grade in the past are receiving lower praise now. D. The tendency for people to do good deeds is increasing. C. Which question from the article best supports the answer from A? So which sentence from the article best supports your answer from question number 2? A. The reports of these good deeds probably are going to beget more good deeds, and that is a good thing. Paragraph 8. B. They did do the right thing, and that's commendable. Paragraph 11. C. When you celebrate what should be ordinary behavior as extraordinary, it sends a dangerous message. Paragraph 13. D. Giving Good Samaritans celebrity treatment may also have the unintended consequence of treating monster expectation. Paragraph 19. Question number 4. Remember, you can pause this video at any time if you need those questions read again. Number 4. What can the reader infer is the author's reason for including quotes from other sources in the article? A. By quoting sources with relevant credentials, the author wants to bolster the argument that reporting on good deeds may have negative consequences. B. By quoting sources with relevant credentials, the author wants to bolster the argument that reporting on good deeds usually has positive consequences. C. By quoting sources with weak credentials, the author wants to bolster the argument that reporting on good deeds always has negative consequences. D. By quoting sources who all have the same opinion, the author wants to bolster his argument that reporting on good deeds is necessary regardless of the consequences. Again, if you need to pause this video at any time to read those questions again, you're welcome to do so. According to the text, number 5, according to the text, how does race play a role in the specific good deed example cited by the author? Number 5, according to the text, how does race play a role in the specific good deed example cited by the author?